Hello everyone. Today we have a very nice presentation related to the resource management, and it's going to be lectured by Ahmed Fikri, who is actually bringing us a very warm regards from very hot place. He's currently in Dubai, but he's coming from Egypt. And he has like over 25 years of experience. He initially was working on architect and then switched to the project portfolio and program management. So let's start. The stage is yours, Ahmed.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, PMBOK, and thank you for this introduction. I'm really also happy to have this resource management subject. It's a very interesting subject, and I believe it's one of my best knowledge areas in the whole of the PMBOK. Let's start. We have a busy night, but I hope that you'll enjoy it as much as I will. Today we are going to talk about the introduction, of course, and we are going to talk about what is the knowledge area. We have 6 processes out of the 49 processes of the PMBOK 6. We have 6 processes here that we are talking in this knowledge area, and we are going to talk about organizational theories as well, which is a main part in the resource management. We're going to look at a few sample questions, and then we are going to open the room for the Q&As. Okay, let's start. What about the knowledge area that's called resource management? It is how to identify, how to acquire, how to manage the resources needed for the project, which is always a very interesting subject in how to get the resources that you need. The people who started a little bit earlier from PMBOK 5, it was called human resources. Now it is resources, and it is not talking only about the human resources, it's also talking about the physical resources and how we can manage the whole thing, like the laptop, like the place that we are renting, like a car that we are renting. All these are physical resources that we are going to talk about in our session today. So in our session, the project resource management knowledge area, as part of the 5 process groups, we have here the plan resource management, we have the estimate activity resources from the planning, and in the executing we have the acquire resources, develop team, and the managed team, and for the monitoring and controlling we have the control resources. So our process really involves all the team members. Why do we involve all the team members? Involving your team members can gain 2 things. First, you will have your team members engaged in a project. They feel the ownership of this project. And the second thing, that you will gain the knowledge from their experience. We have different experience from our different people, but knowing all this and having the different knowledge from different staff members will really strengthen our commitment and knowledge about the project. What are the trends that are being going on for some time? We're going to talk about emotional intelligence in part of our discussion, but another trend that has been really going on is the virtual teams, and I believe that the last few months have showed us how important is the virtual team and how can we work virtually and how can we gain the knowledge from different team members in different areas, in different countries, or even in the same country or the same city, but having a virtual team will always have a good pros, in my opinion, over the cons that it may have. One of the other things as well is the when you have a team without a leader, or the roles distributed evenly, very soon, within a few months, we are going to talk about this a lot, because this is part of the PMBOK 7 that is coming up very soon, and it's part of the agility approach as well. So if we have a quick poll, our first one, just a quick question about what is the hi Chris, can, yes please, thank you. So a project manager, is he a manager or is he a leader? What do you think? Is he a leader, manager, or should he be both manager and a leader?
think most people know what is the answer.
I really hope because
Okay, a few more seconds. The question is very easy actually, but can be also tricky. So 10 more seconds. I don't see the pool is growing, so I'm going to show the results.
okay.
And
Okay, so as you said, most people really know the answer that project manager should really be both. He should be a manager and a leader, because we need both. We need the leader to show us the vision, we need the leader to show us where are we heading, and we need the manager to tell us what and how and the tiny details about the management of the process. One more definition that we are going to talk about before we move on to the process is what is a resource. So a definition of a resource, it's a team member or any physical item needed to complete the project. This is a definition of a resource according to the PMI. Great. So let's go on and dive into the different processes that we have. The first process we are going to talk about today is the planned resource management. And this is how to estimate, how to acquire, and how to manage and utilize the physical and team resources. So it's generally, as we got used to all the different knowledge areas, planned resource management is talking about how are we going to do the resource, all aspects of resources. The outputs of this process is the resource management plan and the team charter. We remember we have the project charter, which is something that really formally authorizes the project and give the authority to the project manager. Here we have a team charter that we are going to talk about, and then we are going to have some updates to our documentation, assumption log, and the risk register. For our inputs, we are going to talk about the project charter, project management plan, project documents, and the EEF, enterprise environmental factors, and the OPA, the organizational process assets. And organizational process assets here, of course, we are going to use the lessons learned from previous projects, and we are going to use historical information and the different templates that we are having. Enterprise environmental factors can have things like the labor law and where we are working to make sure that we are really complying with the different laws in this area. The tools and techniques are the expert judgment and meetings, number 1 and number 4. These are, you can say, repeated for most of the different processes that we have. And we are going to have data representation, which is quite interesting. The hierarchical chart, responsibility assignment matrix, and the text-oriented format, and the organizational theory. Organizational theory is part of our main subject today, which is not really discussed in the PMBOK as much as it is based on the experience and based on the reading and based on some of the theories that we are going to talk about today. So if we talk about data representation, we are having, of course, the work breakdown structure. We talked about this in the scope management knowledge area. And here, the work breakdown structure can help us to understand which resources that we need for which work package. The work breakdown structure gets us to a work package, which is the smallest level of the work breakdown structure. Another hierarchical chart is the organizational breakdown structure, or OBS, which shows the different departments and different people working in the organization that we are having. One more hierarchical chart is the resource breakdown structure. So it is not only about the organization as a whole, but here we are specifically talking about resources. So we are talking about people, we are talking about equipment, and of course the sub under each main category. One of the most important, in my opinion, information that we are going to come up with from this plan resource management is the RACI, or the assignment matrix, or RACI. RACI assignment matrix is a matrix that shows the relation between the different tasks in a project and the different resources working on this project. And we are going to have 4 main letters that assign responsibilities. So R is responsible, the person who's really responsible to do the job. A, accountable, the person responsible to approve it and to make sure that it is correct and it is followed. C, consult, someone that we consult about this process or this task before we do it, and I inform is someone that we really let know about what we did after we do the process. If we look at the first one, develop project charter, we'll find Julia A, Chris R, Philippe I, Alexandra I, Adam I. Without knowing more about this project and who is the project manager and who is the sponsor, we can really understand that usually who is doing the project charter is the project manager. So Chris is the project manager, he's the one responsible, and who's approving the project charter is the sponsor. So Julia A as the accountable, she is the one really the sponsor of this project. And then we are going to let Philippe, Alexandra, Adam, other stakeholders in the project know more about the project and the charter that we have developed. All different tasks, if we are going to have it here, and we are going to fill this matrix, and we are going to communicate with our team, we are going to make sure our team will know what is he doing and when is he doing it, and who should he inform and who should he consult before doing the process. Another data representation, which is a text-oriented format. Most of us have in our jobs something called job description. It is like the job description, but here it is more talking about the roles, responsibility, and the authority, and in a simple form. Even if the company does not provide this, we are going to have it for our team to make sure that everyone knows the responsibilities and the authorities for the person in this project. We can, of course, this template can be found in the OPA as the organization.
One question sure. To the RACI. Dragland is asking if there should be at least one A in each line.
It's a very good point, and yes, it should be an A in each line because there should be someone accountable for each task. So in some tasks, maybe the R and A under the same person. So if a project manager is doing a task and he is the one who's following it up, he can be the R and A. But usually there is an A in each row.
And it should be only one A, or maybe can be more than one?
It depends on the organization that we are having. If you remember from the first chapters, we have different, like the functional organization, the weak matrix, the strong matrix. The best case scenario is you are having one A, because one of the cons, one of the disadvantage of having, let's say, the weak matrix, that you have two bosses. You have the functional and you have the manager. So it should be 1A in each one. This is the best thing that really have the way forward in working with the RACI. Yeah. However, in some organization, you may have more than one.
And sorry for disturbing with the workflow, but we have a lot of questions related to this particular topic.
Please,
what is the difference between the accountable and responsible?
Okay, the one responsible is the one who is preparing the document. So let's say the project charter. The definition of project charter that the sponsor should prepare it, but as we know that usually the sponsor asks the project manager to prepare the charter, and then the sponsor approves it. So accountable is not only approve, he's approving, but also he's the one responsible for the correct information inside it. So let's say I'm the one responsible to prepare the documents, but I'm giving it to my boss to sign on it. So accountable is like the one who's signing the documentation. If I'm preparing a report, and then my boss is signing this report to issue it for an external party, then my boss, he's the one accountable for this one. He's taking the responsibility, and he's taking all measures to make sure that what's inside is correct, has been reviewed, and it's correct. The one responsible is the one really preparing the document more than accountable for it.
Yet another question, but it's maybe not related strictly to the resources, if you have some comments on that. How is it possible that one man can be responsible for the project charter from OLEG?
How is
it possible that one man can be responsible for project charter? I'm not sure if it's the question for this topic, but maybe you have some comments.
Okay, I'll answer it as much as I understand the question, and please let me know if this is not your question. How can be a person responsible for the charter? Usually the project manager prepare the charter. Let's say the charter is the task that you are talking about. The project manager is preparing the charter, but is he doing it alone? No, you will find usually a C. If you remember, one of the tools and techniques in the develop project charter is expert judgment. So maybe I'm in an organization and I'm asking my finance manager when I'm preparing the project charter. So maybe the finance manager will be C, but it's my choice as R, as the project manager, to include this information that I was consulted with or not. So I'm really responsible for what's inside this charter. We are, in the first couple of slides, we said that we have to use our, utilize our team experience in order to make a better documentation using all the experience that we have. When I'm saying I'm responsible to prepare the project charter, I'm not saying I'm depending only on my information, but I'm talking about I'm the lead, I'm the maestro who's really collecting all the information and putting it and selecting what to be there and what is not. I hope this answers your question, but I'm ready to clarify more now or after.
Yeah, let's continue and we will switch to other questions later.
Sure. Okay, so for the resource management plan, what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about the identification of resources, acquiring resources, how to acquire. And we are going to talk about this in acquire resources. So we can have it from inside our organization, we can have it outsourced, we can have the, as you will talk in the procurement in make or buy, so something that you will, are you going to rent or are you going to buy the equipment, the resource? All these are part of the acquiring. Roles and responsibilities, so are going to define, as we said in the data representation, who's responsible for what and who's doing what in the project. The project organization chart, which is really important because it really shows the reporting lines and the communication lines. So in general, you can see the resource management plan really collects from all different knowledge areas and put it in here where our team will really understand what are they doing and why they are doing it. One of the important things is the training. And one of the different let's say concepts that people say training, I'm getting a team, why should I train the team that I'm just getting? Well, training a team is one of the main responsibilities of the project manager, not to do with the training himself, but to arrange for the training if needed. Some of the training is on-job training, and that is the best. So a training can be just aligning your team to the objectives of the project, to the objectives of the organization, to how the communication lines should go. This is called a training. Team development is another important thing, because a team that feels developed is a team that really works in a project with a project manager with all loyalty and all motivation. And the motivation is the key word for a project manager in the resource management plan and in all the aspects. Let's say that some of us have been working as team members for some years. Imagine all the different things that your project manager did not do and you wish that they were doing, like the reward, like the team development, like the recognition, and all these things, and start applying it, and you will be a great project manager. And this is what the plan resource management is talking about. Resource control, how we are going to control our resources, and all these will be described a little bit further in the different processes that we are talking about. Recognition plan is how to recognize and reward your team. And in many surveys, most of the team members say that because they were not being recognized, they have not been rewarded, that's why they are less motivated. The second output from this process is the team charter. So what is inside the team charter? The charter is like the developed project charter is between the sponsor and you as a project manager. And as a general agreement, of course, when we say you in this course as PMBOK or the PMP, you is always referred to you as a project manager. So as the sponsor is giving you the charter as a project manager to know what to do and what are your responsibilities and what is expected from you, you are going to prepare a team charter, which also has for your team, what are the values that you are trying to have? What are the communication guidelines? How are they going to make a decision making? And how the conflict resolution. Conflict resolution, we are going to talk about it, of course, in the organizational theories at the end of this today. And the decision making, we understand, of course, the three different decision makings according to PMI. We have the voting, we have the autocratic, and we have the multi-criteria decision technique. All these three we need as project managers always to know and to apply. It's not always only getting you the right decision, but it's also getting the team to work with you, especially for the voting whenever the time allows. The meeting guidelines and the team agreements. So this is as general outlines for a team charter that if shared with your team, it will help them to understand where are they heading and what should be done, and it really clears the way for them. Second process we're going to talk about is the estimate activity resources. So in the beginning, we're going to know how many resources that we need. So estimating required team resources, which is the human, and the type and quantities of the resources like the material, equipment, cars, laptop, renting a space, all these are physical spaces. The outputs in here will be the resource requirements and the basis of estimates, as well as the resource breakdown instruction and update for the different documents that we have prepared. Basis of estimate, I believe that you have gone through the cost management plans and the schedule management plan, and there will always be basis of estimate mentioned there. So it is the same concept in general. The inputs that we have will be the project management plan and the project documents, the EF and OPA. All the inputs are you are quite familiar with right now. However, please let me know if you have any, if you need any clarification about any of the inputs. We will be happy to discuss. The tools and techniques, number 1 and number 7, again, they are the same, the expert judgment and the meetings, and they are quite familiar with. Number 2, 3, and 4 are the different estimating types. Again, similar to the cost and the schedule management. So the bottom up, where we are collecting from the work packages, different estimating, and we are gathering them at the top, at the total. Analogous estimating, where we are comparing to a similar previous project based on previous experience. And the parametric estimating is where we are comparing based on some parameters like the size of the project, like the area that we are talking about. So these are the different parameters. And for data analysis, we have the alternative analysis. And of course, the alternative analysis is where we study different options, how we can do this. And one of the options, let's say, when we are talking about resources, if you have a resource A whose efficiency is 80% and he's costing you X amount of money per month, and you have another resource whose efficiency is 70%, but he's costing you only half X per month. So which resource are you going to use? It all depends on the time. So if the time is the biggest constraint that we have, maybe you are going to select the more efficient resource, but again, more costly resource. So alternative analysis is really comparing what different criteria for different resources that we have. Project management information system, and of course, is the information that you have, is a database that you have to know all the different resources that you can get from inside and outside the organization. The resource requirement is a very simple form, and this template, you'll find hundreds of templates online, some free templates. Even the PMBOK have issued, PMI have issued a book about some nice forms that you can utilize. It's very simple. It's talking only about what is the resource, how many of this resource. So if I need architects, I need, let's say, 2 assumptions that I will need them only 50%, let's say, of their time. Constraint, this type of architects are only, I can only get virtually, and any remarks that I have. One of the things that PMI is really pushing for is the documentation. So resource requirements is to write down what are the requirements that you need in your project will help you when you are acquiring later on to remember what is needed and how many is needed and any assumption that you have done. One of the things that you need to remember, assumptions and constraints, you will find them are repeated issues in many of the processes that you have. Assumptions is very important, and it is from the first thing in the develop project charter is one of the outputs is the assumption log, and it is why it is important because it is the measure and the main source for the risk. So if we are going to identify a risk, if you open your assumption log and any assumption else that you have done in this project, you will really know what are the risks that you are facing. Another output from this process is the resource breakdown structure. So he's saying that you have material, people, equipment. Under people, you have different specialities. Under material, also you can have, or under equipment, you can have, let's say, cars, you can have trucks, and you can say how many. So as a general representation of the resource breakdown structure, it shows you in a very simple way what you need for this project. The third process that we are having today is the acquire resources. So we estimated the resources that we are having. We just estimated the resources that we need. We just estimated the resources and when are we going to need them. Now let's get these resources. So this process is about obtaining team members, facilities, equipment, material, supplies, and other resources necessary to complete the work and achieve its objective. In other words, it is how to get the human resources and how to get the physical resources in order to achieve the project. So the outputs that we have, and it is a long output, but if you look from number 5 onward, it's just an update of the previous documentation that we have. So don't worry about all these outputs, but the output really is to physically resource assignment. So physical resource assignment is you are going to have for each physical resource, let's say we are renting cars. So I'm renting car from this time to that time, and you are going to get the implement what we have planned for. Are we going to implement it in here? Project team assignment, same, but for the human. The resource calendar, one of the things that if you worked on a MS project or Primavera or other time schedule softwares, you will find the resource calendar is important. What is a resource calendar? Let's say that we need 2 architects. One architect is working 5 days a week and the other architect is working 4 days a week. So each resource has a different calendar. While planning our project, we need to understand who's working what. As in the introduction, I just said that I'm in Dubai. We are working here 5 days a week. This is for the consultancy sector. However, for the contractor sector, they are working 6 days a week. So each resource, each different resource has its own calendar. And this is how we can really estimate when we go for the estimation of the time, we can estimate the required time. The inputs are the project management plan, project documents, the EF and OPA. Similar to what we have looked at in the different other process. Tools and techniques here, we have the decision making, the interpersonal team skills, the pre-assignment, and the virtual team, and we are going to talk about these a little bit. So decision making is the multi-criteria decision analysis, and this is one of the 3 decision-making techniques. We said the first one is the voting, the second one is autocratic, where a single person is saying the decision, and the third one, which is a favorite of mine, is the multi-criteria decision analysis. The multi-criteria decision analysis really works on understanding the different criteria needed and the different weights. Let's say I want to buy a vehicle brand A or vehicle brand B. So I need to know what is the criteria. Is the price most important for me, or is it the availability of the spare parts or availability of service? So multi-criteria, and I hope that you have been through this before, but we can see some examples if you would like in the explanation later on. The interpersonal and team skills negotiations is how we are going to negotiate. So why do I need negotiate? In the acquire resources, I need negotiate because this is how I'm going to get the different resources. If I'm working in an organization and I know that the best architect is X and the best finance manager is Y, how will I talk to the boss? How we are going to talk to the CEO? How I'm going to talk to the person in charge in order to get the best resources for me? That's a way of negotiations, and this is an internal negotiation within our organization. But if we don't have inside our organization and we have to hire someone, if we have to hire a company, or if you have to hire a person, so we need to negotiate their cost, their fees, their salary, in order to get the best for our project. Remember, as a project manager, you are the person responsible for the cost at the end. Number 3 is the pre-assignment. Pre-assignment, we are going to look at it in the following slides. And the pre-assignment is when a physical or a team resource for a project are determined in advance. So if I'm a consultant, a contractor, a vendor, and I'm providing a service, and the sponsor said, okay, I will give you this project. However, you have to make sure that you are getting the resource, Chris, to join this project. Otherwise, I'm not going to give you this project because Chris is the best one who can do this task. So this is a pre-assignment, which is something before we start the project, before we sign the project, and usually during the proposal, is a prerequisite in order for us to have this project. So a pre-assignment is something that it's not negotiable, done deal. We must have this resource. If I go back to the decision making, and we talked about the multi-criteria, these are the different, let's say, criteria that we may have while we are selecting a resource. So we can select the availability. Maybe we have the best resource, but he or she is not available during the period of the project. The cost, the ability to do the job, the experience in doing similar projects, the knowledge, the skills, attitude, culture factors, international factors. All these are samples of the different criteria that we may have while selecting the best resource, whether physical or usually in the human, of course, but some of these can apply also to the physical. So the culture factors, here we are talking about, as Chris was saying, we have people from different areas in the world. Is it easy to have everyone cooperating together under the same project? Maybe yes, maybe no. It all depends on the project manager, and it all depends on how the approach to the work being done. The attitude, some people, and again, architects have some of them, not all of them, have a little bit of attitude in doing the work because they feel that they are really different. They are the maestros, and so are you going to have this criteria while you are selecting your resource or not? This is how we are going to make the decision. For the virtual team, of course, for some it was not a common practice, but during the last few months, I believe that many of us have changed and we have depended more on the virtual team, even if we are in the same city. While working in a company here in Dubai, suddenly 100% of the workforce, we have been working virtual for around 2 months. And I don't know about your experience, but my experience that this was more efficient. So what do you think, what is the advantage of virtual team, of having a virtual team? Maybe I can get resources that I cannot get from the same area. Let's say that we need Chris to help us in a project here in Dubai, and he does not have time to travel, or we have some travel restriction. If I'm working virtually, I can really have him working with me in here. If Chris in Poland and he needs people to travel from different cities, but there is a cost attached to this. So let's say, okay, some resources will work from home, and this will save us not only the cost for travel, but also will save us the cost for the space, renting a space, and renting the area where they will be working. So these are some of the advantages of the virtual team. So some special expertise you cannot add except if they are virtual. Team members who work from home, and personally, if it is my choice, I will work from home continuously. It is not only during this period. And form teams of people who work different shifts, hours and days. In 2008, I was in a company here, and we had teams in China and we had teams in the US. The time difference between, of course, it's not possible now to have teams from the US and China working same together, but in this time the work was around the clock. It did not stop, so different shifts have been working all around. And people with mobility or limitation or disabilities, and reduce office and travel expenses, which is a main factor for a project manager to consider. Process 9.4, which is the develop team. So we had estimated the team we want, we had acquired the team that we need, and now it's time to develop our team. So how we are going to improve our competencies for the team, how the team together will interact together, and this is a main factor, and we'll talk about it in the organizational theories, how the team members can really interact together in order to have the best and experience in the overall. And how the performance, to enhance the performance of the team overall. So the outputs in here, that the team performance assessment and the change request, and of course the updates for the different documentation that we are going to have, like the project management plan, like the EF and the OPA. The inputs that we are having here is the project management plan, which includes the resource management plan that we developed in 9.1, and the project documentation, the EF and OPA. And for the tools and techniques here, we have the colocation, virtual teams, communication technology, and recognition, reward, training, individual, and the meetings. And we're going to spend some time today about the tools and techniques in here, because it is really important how to develop a team. Many people can really obtain a team, but how to develop the team and how to make the team motivated and how the team loyal working with you is an important subject. So the co-location, what is co-location? Is that you have the people in the same physical location. So you can consider this as the opposite of the virtual team. Co-location is having the same team in the same physical location. What is the advantage? Is their ability to perform as a team might be more enhanced. This room, by the way, I saw it as an exam question. One time he was asking about the war room. What is the war room? The war room is the co-location room, where you have one room like this. You can have the team meetings. It's not a must to have the team sitting in this room all time, but it's a room where you have different charts, different what is the performance of the project, what is next to be done. So it is like a room where the team can meet and can really get to know everything about the project, where you can have your team meetings, and it will be really a good option to have. So co-location, are you going to go for the co-location or are you going to go for virtual team? It's your choice as a project manager, and it's your choice while developing the resource management plan. How are you going to deal with this project? All depends on the pros and cons. We talked about the pros of the virtual team, but there are some cons as well that we need to think about. The communication technology. So communication technology, like what we are just doing now, it's Zoom. When we were talking 4 years ago, when I was explaining the same slide, it was, some people did not know what we are talking about, but now I believe everyone in this discussion know exactly what we are talking about. So we can have a video conference, we can have a shared portal, we can have audio conferencing, and of course the emails and chats, and now the WhatsApp group and the Trello and so many other softwares that people are using and can be very helpful for our team. The interpersonal and team skills, we have 5 items that we will talk quickly about. The first one is the conflict management. And a question that is not so direct, but is the conflict a good thing or a bad thing? Conflict in many cultures was always seen as a bad thing to happen. However, the conflict management, if you have the right conflict between people who are trying to make things better, and you have the management for this conflict, and you have the resolution for this conflict, then it will help the project to move forward. The influencing, again, one of the concepts that have been widely known now, the influencers, and how you can influence your team in order to do the right thing. Motivation is how to keep the team engaged and how to give them the reason to do what they are doing. Negotiations, we talked about negotiations. You can negotiate with the boss, you can negotiate with the other team members. And at the end, the team building. Team building exercises are variable, but this is one of the things that really develop a team to work together. In many projects, the success of a project is not only about the personal and single competency, but it's how the team came to work together in order to have a successful project at the end. So team building can be as easy as you are taking the team for lunch outside and you are talking and you are sharing, and you can have some activities like this one, for example, and you will have so many, there are so many resources over the internet that talks about the team building. Some exercises can be done indoor, some exercises outdoor, but the team building and how to get the team coherent together, how to get the team working together, that's really an important subject that the project manager should invest some time in. Recognition and rewards, and recognition will be effectively only if they satisfy a need. I believe this statement from PMI is one of the most true statements ever. When we talk about personality type, so some people like to be recognized and in public, and these are usually the extrovert. Extrovert are people who are getting the energy and their mojo from having other people around them. And some other people have the introvert. Introvert is they are more not shy as much as they are working alone, or they are getting their energy from inside rather than other people. So let's say the introvert person who is a little bit shy and he wants to work getting the energy from himself a little bit away from people, and you are trying to recognize that person. Will I make a party and invite everyone? No, because it will not satisfy the need for this person. So while selecting the recognition and reward for the team that you are having, you have to select it based on their expectation, based on their needs, rather than something else. Of course, a recognition is always good that people celebrate it, because it's they can see what are the reward of doing a good job. But you need to keep in mind that the person that you are rewarding, his need or her need should be also thought of. The training, as we were talking in the beginning, that your training can be formal, it can be informal, it can be in-house, can be outside, it can be talking about the job, talking about the objectives, and it can be a special training. The training also, usually it's a schedule. However, if there is unplanned training, it takes place of the observation, conversation, or the team assessment, then you should also have this unplanned training. An important thing, and it comes as a question sometimes in the exam, for the training cost. Who should bear the training cost? Should I bear it as, who should pay the training cost? Should I pay it as a project, or should the organization pay it as organization? And that's an important question. So it all depends on two things. First, the skill that the person will have. Will it be beneficial for the organization, or will it be beneficial only for the project? So if it is beneficial for the organization, then the organization should pay the cost of this training. However, if it is only for the project, then it should be paid by the project. The second factor, which is important, is the negotiation skills of the project manager. So if the project manager with a good negotiation skills, he can put most of the training skills on the organization rather than on his project. How to develop the team? We need to have the team and the individual assessment. So the assessment of the team and each individual is an important. Some of us have in our organization assessment once or twice a year. So what is assessment? You need to know what are the team looking for. So what are their preference? What are they looking for? What are their aspirations? And what is their organization information? If you know all this information, you will know more about the team. In other words, maybe you have been across a term before, which called the SWOT analysis, the SWOT, the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So if you know the strengths and the weakness of each of your team members and the team as a whole, then you are going to develop the team based on this. Let's say that one of the weaknesses of one of my teams that public speaking or presenting, and you need this team member to talk in a presentation with a sponsor. First, I should not put this person to talk with a sponsor without either having the right skills or to talk to the sponsor or to any other stakeholder. However, if this person is the most knowledgeable, let's say he is the finance manager of a big financial project, and he's the best person who knows technically about this project, but he has the public speaking issue, so he has some weakness. So if I develop this weakness into a strength to have public speaking while he has the knowledge and the technical knowledge about the finance, then you are going to have the better result at the end. For the team performance assessment, this was for the individual. For the team performance is how the team is effectively working together. So what are the skills that we need to work together? Let's say communication skills, the team building skills, and what are the competencies that also we need. So identifying the skills, competencies that you have, we need to understand more about our team in order to better utilize our team. One of the terms that some will not be familiar with is the turnover rate. Turnover rate is the number of people who are leaving the project, not on the due date of leaving the project. What does this mean? Let's say I have a team of 5, and after 3 months, I need to reduce this team from 5 to 3. So I will need to tell 2 of my team members, thank you very much, you are back to the organization, you are not working in this project anymore. This is not a turnover, because this is a planned let go or returning resources to the main organization. However, turnover is someone that has resigned before his time, or someone that their performance was not good enough, so we told them thank you very much, goodbye, before the time is due. So reduced staff turnover will really help the team to work together, and it will help the team to have the continuity of the information and knowledge. Process number 5 is the manage team. And manage team, after we develop the team, after we have, of course, estimated the team, acquired the team, develop the team, now we are going to manage our team. Process 9.5 is talking about the human resources team, and process 9.6 is talking about the physical team. So today, in this process now, we are going to talk only about the human resources. So manage team is how to track the team members' performance and to provide feedback, how to resolve the issues, and to manage team changes to optimize the project performance. One of the important words in this definition is the feedback. Many project managers fail to give the feedback to their team members, which is a really an unfortunate subject, because giving the feedback, and it's not only the negative feedback, you should give the negative feedback, but more importantly is to give the positive feedback. If someone did good, we should be able to say you did good. People will really have the, you will set the course where they are heading. You will set the, am I doing well, or I should be better, or I should really change, or I should develop. So the output here will be change request, the project management plan update, and the project documents update, and the EAF update. Change request, why are we going to have change request as an output in a managed team? Because managing team can result in request for, let's say, changing a team member, or adding a team member, or having a training for a team member. So this can result in a change request to the cost of the project that we are having. The input that we have is the project management plan, of course, the project documents, the work performance report, the team performance assessment, work performance report and team assessment that we just talked about in how we are going to develop the team, and of course the EF and the OPA. Tools and techniques, the interpersonal team skills, and the project management information system. The interpersonal team skills, one of the important things is the emotional intelligence. While PMBOK 6 has been written, the emotional intelligence, actually it is not that old subject in the world, is how that you are going to know more about yourself and the others. And we're going to talk about this a little bit in the coming slides. So the work performance report is, when we're talking about the input in here, the work performance report is the how the work is being moving on. So let's say the progress that we are having is 40%, while it should be have been 45%. So this difference, does it require management of the team, or does it require management of the monitoring or controlling of the physical resources that we are going to have? So all this information will give me the guidance. Am I doing well as a project? Am I doing well as a project manager? Or do I need to change? Or do I need to update? Do I need to add? Or do I need to remove? This is the emotional intelligence as part of the interpersonal and team skills. And emotional intelligence, it is not usually an exam question. However, it is an important thing that we know. Emotional intelligence has 5 pillars. The first one is self-awareness. So I should know more about myself. What are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? The motivation, how can I motivate my team? How can I motivate the other members that I have? The empathy. Empathy is like the word sympathy, which you feel for the other person, pains and sorrows and happiness. But empathy is not like only feeling for him, it's also feeling for him and putting yourself in his shoes, putting yourself in his place. This will give you a better understanding on how to deal with this person. The social skills, like the communication, like being mindful of other people's needs and expectations, and the self-regulation. So it's not only knowing the self-awareness, but also self-regulations. How can I overcome my weaknesses, and how can I make my strengths even better? Leadership as a part of the project manager, and as 90% agreed that the project manager should have the leadership and should have the management skills, is an important subject. And you will be surprised that the leadership is one of the most required skills. Maybe you're not so surprised. It is one of the most required skills all over time, but now more than ever, the leadership is being required more and more for the lack of the leadership in many of the project management aspects. The last process that we are going to talk about is about the control resources. So what is control resources? Is to ensure that, now we're talking about the physical resources, we have to ensure that the physical resources is doing well, is doing as planned. And we are monitoring what is the planned versus the actual to ensure that the resource is really getting me where I want to do with the project objectives. Okay, so that's for the control resources. The outputs that we have will be the work performance information and change request, and the other different updates for the project management plan and for the different documents. The inputs that we have is the project management plan, project documents, work performance data, agreements, and organizational process assets. As you'll find here, an agreement, something that we do not talk about for so many other processes, but here agreements, why? Because usually when you are having a physical resource, you are having an agreement for renting or buying a special resource like a card, like a laptop, like even renting a space. So you need the agreement in order to make sure that what you are doing in controlling this resource, it is already mentioned there. Number 3 here is the work performance data. And as a standard, and you'll find it in many other processes, while you're having the work performance data in the input, you'll always have the work performance information in the output. So data is like the progress is 40% and the planned progress is 50% and the actual progress is 40%. This is the data. So what is the work performance information? That this project progress is 80% project progress, which is the 40, the actual, divided by 50, which is the planned. The tools and techniques that we are having are alternative analysis, the cost-benefit analysis, performance review, and trend analysis. We'll talk about this in a minute. And the problem solving. The other interpersonal skills we talked about, like the negotiation and the influencing, and of course the project management information system as a general tool and technique in managing our resources. So work performance data is the input. Usually you will have the work performance information as the output. And here are some of the tools and techniques we just mentioned. So alternative analysis, we said which alternative, should I rent car number A or car number B? Should I rent the car number A or should I buy the car number A? All these are different alternatives. But here, while we are doing the control analysis, there are others, like let's say we are renting a car. So should I return this car or should I continue with the rent? Should I make maintenance or should I just change the resource? These are different alternatives. The cost-benefit analysis was one of the most important analysis that project manager is doing. It's maybe you remember when in your study you study something called cost of quality, which is part of the quality management plan. The cost of quality is talking to us about how much are we going to spend on the quality and what is the return. If I spend this much, what am I going to achieve? This is the same concept of the cost-benefit analysis. I am, let's say, doing a maintenance every month. So this is a cost. Or will I do a maintenance every 2 months? That's another cost. Each one has a different benefit. So I have to compare the cost that I'm doing to the benefit that I'm getting in order to assess the different options that I have. Performance review, of course, again, of the physical resource to understand if they are giving the planned outcome or not. Trend analysis is an important analysis that we have. So let's say, again, the simple example of a car. Let's say a car is doing per gallon of gas is doing, let's say, 10 kilometers. Let's say one day it is only making 9 kilometers as a performance, but the other day it's doing again 10 kilometers. So this is, let's just say, a hiccup, a small thing during the overall performance of this physical resource. But if there is a trend, so first day is 10, second day is 9, third day is 8. So there is a trend, there is something continuously wrong about the performance of this physical asset. This is a big indication that there is something that needs an immediate attention and needs that we are looking into this immediately to make the corrective action. Problem solving is one of the exam questions because it will come in a different ways and it will come in when they are asking about the change request, when they are asking this situation happens, what are you going to do? So these are the PMI steps for the problem solving. And if we let's not say memorize, if we understand these different steps, when we are going to have the question in the exam, we are going to understand where are we right now and what is the next step that we should be doing, which will be the question of the exam. So the first thing is to identify the problem. So identify the problem. What is the problem? We remember that there's something called root cause analysis, or the Ishikawa, or the fishbone. This is how to understand what is the real problem, not what is the symptom of the problem. So we have first to identify that there is a problem. Many project managers do not identify that there is a problem, but let's identify it. Second, we are going to define it. So we are going to break it down. We want to understand it. What is the problem that we are really facing? Then we are going to investigate. So we are going to collect data, which is another thing in the change request. If you're doing a change request, you have to collect data before making any recommendation. So investigate or to collect data. After this is analyze, to analyze the collected data and to understand what was planned, what did go wrong, what is the root cause that we are having. And then we are going to choose the suitable solution. So we have different, of course, solutions. We're going to choose the best one, and this is the solve of the problem. At the end, we're going to check the solution. It does not mean that we selected a suitable solution. It is the best option. We're going to check the solution. Was it fixed or not? If it is not fixed, then as a flow chart, you are going to go back again and make more investigation and make more analysis and understand the problem and solve it until the problem is really solved. So these are the different steps of solving a problem, and it is quite logical and quite common. That's the first part, is the different processes, the 6 processes that we have talked about. Now let's talk a little bit about the organizational theories. Organizational theories, it is not written in stone in the book. However, it is a very interesting, different theories that have been going on for many years. Some have been for hundreds of years, some for quite new, but there are different theories that we need to understand. The first one is about the team formation, and it's quite common to get a question about the team formation and what are the different stages of team formation. The first step of team formation is forming. So when we are having a team, we are forming a team, we are acquiring the team, as we just said in the process, and we are getting the team to work together. Usually after the forming comes the storming. The storming is where the team starts saying, I want it this way, it should have been this way, I'm the boss, you should listen to me. That's different aspects of the team where they are storming. It's coming from the word storm, of course. They are colliding together, they are clashing sometimes together, until this process or this stage is over. And this is where things start to get norming, to start cooling down, to start, this is how the work is going to be in the coming period. And then performing. So the team really start to perform in their work and in their project. At the end, adjourning, where the team, each one goes back to his or her organization, and each one go to another project. So this is at the end of the project. So forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Usually the question is would come like they are asking about while you are working with your team, and your team, there is an increase in conflict between your team, and each one is trying to put his point of view in the project. Which stage is the team formation? Of course, this is the storming. It's quite an easy question, and I believe that you can all get it right easily in the exam. Some of the organizational theories that we are going to talk about is McGregor and these were in the 50s of last century, and he has the theory X and theory Y um, uh, as part of the organizational theories. So theory X, what does it say? It says that people need close supervision. People will avoid work when possible, and they will avoid responsibility. They will desire only money, and people must be pushed to perform. So this is what theory X is saying. The same person, McGregor, said, but there is a theory else called theory Y. So people want independence. They want to feel that they are independent in their work, and they will seek responsibility. They will not run from it. They will go for the responsibility. And people are motivated by self-fulfillment. So I can be motivated by on my own. I don't need someone to motivate me or someone to give me money to be motivated. People naturally want to work, and people will drive themselves to perform. So I don't need to push people to perform or threaten people to perform. People will perform. Um, Never mind the different phases in theory X and theory Y, as we will see in the different theories that we are going to talk about in the next few slides. You will always find different point of views in there. So another simple question, another simple poll. Which theory do you prefer as a project manager? I'm not saying which one is better. Which one do you want to and will you apply in your work? Both, or the theory X or the theory Y?
Wow. Interesting results. I think, yeah, we have some devils and angels in our. Okay, so still some seconds. Some people, I see the number is not growing, so let's show the results. And okay, so I show the results.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, so the theory Y is 52%, and the mix of both is 45%. As I was saying, as we will say also in the coming few slides, there is no right and there is no wrong. It can really depend on the project. It can depend on the team. It can depend on myself. It can depend on so many different aspects. However, selecting, in my opinion, selecting a theory is not correct, because it really depends on the also team members that you are working. It depends on their experience, on their level of interaction. Okay, so let's move on with the different theories. Maslow hierarchy of need, and usually this is a common question in the exam. It's talking about Mr. Maslow. He has this nice pyramid, and he's saying that each age has different needs. So in the beginning, when you are just fresh graduate, only what you need is the food, the water, the warmth, and the rest. So this is the physiological needs. And then your needs will grow to need more security and more safety. Maybe I will move from the place I'm living in to live in a more nice environment. And then you will need the intimate relationship and the friends. The next step is you will need the prestige and the feeling of accomplishment. So I need that the people will really give me my prestige, that they understand my input, they understand my situation. And at the end, there is the self-actualization, which is the achieving one full potential, including the creative activities, which usually in another age. Each theory that we will talk about will have the opposite theory or the other aspects. So one of the things that Maslow hierarchy of needs people have been taking on is the concept of starving artist. Starving artist is like when you go to the subway and you find someone who's playing guitar or playing violin, and they cannot really find something to eat, but they are having their self-actualization. They are having the highest level of the Maslow hierarchy of need, while they cannot even find the first level of the food and the water and the warmth. Another aspect and why the Maslow hierarchy of need is important when we're talking about the rewards and the recognition. So if I'm having a newly graduated person and they really did well, what should I give them? Should I give them a title, you will be a manager, or should I give them a raise or a bonus or an award of a money reward? So Maslow hierarchy of need will tell us somehow on how to deal with the reward and recognition. Keeping in mind that the newer generations have really broke down most of the rules. So these are theories, but the actual will have to depend on the project manager knowledge and the experience doing this. A very important theory and a very important also exam question is about the Herzberg motivation. Herzberg motivation is talking about something called the hygiene factors. So what is Herzberg motivation? He's saying that the presence of hygiene factors does not motivate someone. However, their absence demotivates. So what is the hygiene factor? Let's say the hygiene factor is my salary. Did you ever hear about a person who is motivated by receiving their salary? Usually no. Usually people act with the salary. This is a comment, this is a giving, this is not a motivation thing. You are not making me motivated because you are giving me my salary. So this is a hygiene. But let's consider the other way around. If I don't receive my salary on time, will I be demotivated? Definitely yes. So this is the general idea about the Herzberg motivation and the hygiene factors. He's saying that these hygiene factors, like the company policy, like the paycheck, like the status, like the relationship with co-workers, having these things, they will not give me motivation. However, if these things are not there, if my relationship with my co-workers, for example, is not good, I will be demotivated. What are the motivating factors from Herzberg point of view? Is the achievement, is making things happen, recognition, that I'm being recognized, work itself, which is similar to theory Y of the McGregor, the responsibility, the advancement, the possibility for growth. I'm not saying all these are motivating factors that will work for everyone, but these are motivating factors that can really be used as a checklist or as a guidelines, what you or I can use with our teams in order to motivate them. Another theory, which is the expectancy theory of motivation by Victor Vroom. So Mr. Vroom had a very nice theory about the expectancy. What is expectancy? Is people will expect to be rewarded, so they will be motivated. In other words, people will not work, will not be motivated without their expectation that there is a reward at the end of their effort. I will give you everything I have. I will work day and night. I will give you my loyalty. But I'm expecting at the end of this that I will have some sort of a reward. So the reward or award should be achievable. If they are impossible to achieve, they will be demotivate them. So let's say if I'm one of your team members and you promise me a reward that you will take me to Disney World, is this achievable? I hope somehow. But let's say that you promise me a trip to the moon. It's not achievable reward. So I will know that it is just words more, rather than a real motivation or a real reward. So will not motivate me. On the contrary, it will demotivate. So people are motivated by achievement. So achievement can be a reward by itself, and people expect to be rewarded for achievements. So yes, I will need to achieve this project, but if I achieve this project, it is not enough. So achievement, it is motivation, but it is not enough. I need to have a reward somehow. The carrot and stick is the most common picture for this theory, which yes, I have a carrot and you keep pushing the people that they are trying to go and get this carrot in order, which is the reward, in order to keep being motivated and to keep working in this project. Another theory, which in my personal opinion, one of the best theories, and it really has covers many aspects of the motivation area, which is the McClelland achievement theory. Mr. McClelland said that the people need achievement, power, and affiliation. So three things: achievement, power, and affiliation, and we're going to explain what are these. So achievement is when someone perform well and it is recognized for it. So it is not only I have achieved something, but I'm also recognized for it. Recognized does not mean rewarded. There are two words: rewarded and recognized. Recognized is someone can say, Ahmed, well done. This is a recognition. Ahmed, well done. This is your bonus, or this is your, you have been promoted to this title. So this is a reward. So this is achievement, is someone performing well and he's being recognized for it. The power, it means he or she will have a lot of control or influence in the company. So they have a say in the company. So when I'm saying my opinion in the company, people will listen. Take care. Power is not a title. Power can be, and I believe that you have gone through the different forms of power. One of the forms of power is having a title, but which is a formal. But another form of power is really you can have your say without having a formal title in the company. The third one is the affiliation. So what is affiliation? Affiliation is the strong sense from being a part of a working team and having good relationship with co-workers. Let's say the PMI, Project Management Institute. I am, as Ahmed, I am motivated because I am affiliated with the PMI. I am motivated because I am a member in the PMI. So this is another way of having the motivation, that I'm part of this team, I'm part of this company, I'm part of this organization. So having these three is how McClelland having the achievement and the motivation theory between the achievement, the power, the affiliation. Of course, the top point is where you have all three, but these are the different areas for the McClelland. We're just talking about the forms of power, and let's look at this slide. It will list us the different forms of power if you have not gone through this before. And usually, again, that's another exam question. So there are 5 forms of power. The first one is the formal. Formal means a title. You are the manager, so you have a formal title, so you have a sort of power. The other one is the expert. You don't need to have a title, but people will recognize you because you are an expert in doing something. You are the best one who can make this type of project. So you will have a power in what you say and in what you do. Reward is when you have the power to give positive consequence. So like promotion, like salary. So these are the reward. If you have the ability to give the reward, then you will have a power in doing your job. The penalty, which is the opposite of the reward. So to provide negative consequence like suspension, termination, or reprimands, which is the penalty form of power. So if I have the power to give penalty, then I'm having a power over a team. The last one is the referent. This is where we don't have a title. You don't have more experience, but people admire and they willingly choose someone that they can really follow as a form of power. Referent is not written anywhere. It is not a formal. He cannot give me reward. She cannot give me penalty. However, I like this person and I trust this person, so I will follow this person. So as a project manager, and one of the questions we are going to look at, you need to know what is the source of your power. Because if you have only the formal, maybe it's enough, maybe it is not, but you will need to have different forms in order to ensure that you have the right power. if we look at the some different photos, this is the Malala. She's Nobel award. She's awarded Nobel, and she has been doing great in women education and freedom. And she has been doing a lot of projects with Bill Gates. So which form of power does she have? She has the referent form of power. She does not have any formal title. She does not have any way of rewarding, but she has really the referent form of power. And a judge, what sort of power that he has? He has the penalty, so he can give negative consequences. And this nice gentleman, what form of power he has? He has the expert power. So again, he does not have a title, doesn't have the ability to reward or penalty, but he's an expert in his field. So when he says something, people really listen and they do what he says. As we talk about the power, we are talking about the leadership style. And there are 3 types of leadership style according to some of the organizational theories. The first one is the autocratic. Autocratic, which is, I like these 3 figures because it really shows what the definition of each one. So autocratic, she tells her team is do X. So they tell us exactly what you want us to do, and they don't deviate from this one. Laissez-faire, which is a French word, and I hope someone speaking French who can pronounce it better than me, but laissez-faire is someone who is letting go or removing their hands. So the boss says, you can do X, you can do Y as you see fit. They do not say do X as a autocratic, but they say do X, do Y as you see fit. In all the years of explaining this, many people say, but laissez-faire is not a leadership. This is not a leadership. How can a leader say this? Well, Mr. Steve Jobs had a very nice word. I don't know if he did apply it in reality or not, but he had a very nice word. He said, it does not make sense to get good people and expert people and then tell them what to do. So this is the laissez-faire. It does not mean that I don't care what you are doing, but I mean that I'm getting the right people so they can really choose, is it X or is it Y? And then the last one is the democratic. So he's someone who make a participation with the team. And he asked the question, which one do you think? Is it X or is it Y? And which one should we select? So these are the 3 types, the autocratic, the laissez-faire, and the democratic. I will not ask like the project manager which one is better, or is it a leader or a manager, but again, it is not a matter of better or worse, it's a matter of you as a leader, as a project manager, you need to choose one, but it is not to choose the same one every moment and in every situation. In some areas, let's say that you are dealing with Albert Einstein, it does not make sense that you tell him do X or do Y. Maybe you will be a laissez-faire and tell him do X or Y as you see fit. But if you are getting someone like me and I need some sort of direction, so you need to tell me do X. And if you need getting someone like Chris who has a wide knowledge, you can say, which one do you think is better? Is it X or is it Y? At the end, you need to choose and you need to be flexible dealing with the team. One of the questions, again, in the exam, and I've seen it in so many books, and usually it comes, is the halo effect. Halo effect is this nice thing above a person's head. It's called halo, which is the extending the impression of a particular outstanding trait to influence the total judgment of a person. What does this mean? And I have seen it happen so many times. Let's say an engineer, and this engineer is a very good electrical engineer. He's the best electrical engineer I ever worked with. So what is the next step? I will make him a project manager. But why? He was a very good electrical engineer. He was a very good technical person. It does not mean that he will be a good project manager. So the halo effect is when we give judgment to a person, or a title to a person, or to a promotion to a person because he did good in one area, so we are saying he will do good in all different areas. This is the halo effect. Conflict resolution method. And what we were saying in the beginning, that the conflict is, if the conflict is resolved, if the conflict is taking forward, then that's great, because it will really give the depth and the knowledge and the experience of different people trying to get things right. However, if the project manager does not resolve the conflict, then the situation can be very bad between the two different conflicting parties. So what are the different resolution methods? The first one is the confrontation. Confrontation is problem to be solved by examining alternatives. So I will get the two parties and we'll talk, and we will take part from here and we'll take part from there, and we're going to discuss, and we're going to take the way forward. The other one is compromise. It is some degree of satisfaction to all parties. So confrontation is, I'm going to discuss about what is best here and what is best there, and I'm going to give and take between the two people. But the compromise is, I'm going to take part of the first party, and another area of the second party, and I'm trying to make both parties happy, which is not usually a recommended thing, because when you are trying to make each one partly happy, you end up with something that is not necessarily the best way forward. Smoothing is, okay, slow down, let's, we have so many areas of agreement, let's talk about them, and let's try not to make conflict, let's try to be happy together and everything. So making it smooth. And forcing, it is using the power. Guys, you are going to do it, it's my way or the highway, do it this way. Okay, so forcing a conflict resolution, do it this way, without thinking which one will be happy or which one will be satisfied or not. And avoiding, which is retreat. Guys, you are go solve it together. I'm not, I don't have time now to discuss this subject. This is an avoiding of a conflict situation. Is it good or bad? Nobody's saying it's bad. It's a conflict resolution. Sometimes you let the two parties, if they are willing enough and they are wise enough, they can really resolve it. However, you have to keep an eye on the situation. It is not just avoiding, you have to keep an eye on the situation. The collaborating is part like the confrontation in the beginning, but it's incorporating multiple viewpoints. Collaborating, and in the exam question, collaborating or problem solving is the best answer. Why it is the best answer? Because it's getting different point of view, but it's not like compromise. I'm taking part from here, I'm taking part from there. Collaborating is like the word synergy for the people who read the Robert R. Covey, the 7 habits of highly effective people, is how to get a point of view from A and a point of view from B and put them together and get a new point of view that really serve A and serve B, but also get a new dimension and a new resolution for the whole thing. So these are different conflict resolution methods. The best one, according to PMI and according to experience, is the collaborating and the problem solving. By having a conflict resolution, you will get the team to get the full potential of the project, and you get the team to understand what is the best solution. Without the conflict, let's say the first party saying, let's go to solution A, and the second part saying, let's go to solution B. And if we go only to A, or if we go only to B, maybe it is not the best solution. But if the first party say, let's go to alternative A, and the second party is not convinced, but let's say, okay, let's go to A, then there is no conflict, but at the same time, there is no best interest of the project and the project team. The conflict resolution method, the different aspects that we were talking about, the collaborating and problem solving, we are going to look at it from the X and Y. So X is how to concern for self, myself. Do I need to get into the conflict or not? And here is the concern for the other party, the other person that I'm conflicting with. So if I'm concerning for myself and I don't care So if I have high concern for myself and I really don't care, my low concern for the other party, it is here. It is the competitive or the forcing or do it this way. If I have high concern for myself and have concern for the other party, then it is the problem solving. And this is why it is the best. Compromise, yes, it's in the middle, but this is not the best. The best is in here, where I have the high concern for myself and the high concern for the others. The low concern and low for self and for others is the avoiding, because it does not really help the others. But the low concern for self and a high concern for others is accommodating. So I will listen and I will do what the others are saying without really discussing or going through this. Just in time for the next few minutes to go through some sample questions, and then we are going to open the room for the Q&As. And for the sample question, the first one. So the first one is saying all the following are forms of power derived from the project manager position, except. So these are 4 answers: the formal, the reward, the penalty, the expert. Which of these are the project manager position provide? So the question is, 3 of these are given by the project manager position. There is someone except one of those is not given by the project manager. So which one you think?
Okay, I was wondering why one of them is not getting attention, but we have like 50% for one of them, 27 for another one, 13 for the third one, and 8 for last one. Okay, I see people still voting, so let's wait a few more seconds. And okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's see the results. Can you comment on that, Ahmed?
Sure, that's a very good point. So in my position as a project manager, I have the power. Why? Because I have a position. It's very clear. I am the project manager, and you have to listen to me. So this is a formal form of power. And I have the ability to give you the reward, the recognition. So that is another form of power. I have also the ability to tell you, you are not working with me anymore. So this is another form of power. So, but being an expert in my field is not a form of power given by the project manager position. So in other words, the right answer in here will be the expert. So the expert is the right answer, because all the following are forms, but you have to remember that there is the word except. So all these are correct. So, but the right answer is the expert. Okay, second one is the most common cause of conflict on a project are schedule, project priorities, and. So what are the forms of the conflict in a project? In addition to the schedule and the project priorities. What do you think?
Okay, people are started voting, and we have 2 leaders, but one is going faster to other. We have like 60% already. Second have a 30 or so. So waiting a few more seconds. I feel like on the horse racing. Okay. Okay, let's see right now.
Okay, so the question is what really people are arguing about in a project?
Sharing the result. Can you comment on that?
Sure. Okay, the resources is the correct answer. Yes, it is the majority. So yes, while working a project, we are talking about which resources are we going to use. And this statement, schedule, project priorities, resources, and technical opinions, this is an extract from the PMBOK. Resources is the point where people usually talk about and argue about, and you should give me this resource, or In other words, I should get the better car, or these are the different resources that people really can have a conflict about in them.
Yeah, but a lot of people answered A. Can you comment why not A?
Because personalities is yes, personalities definitely is a cause of conflict. I'm not saying it's not a cause, but like the previous question, there was the word accept. Here there is another word called the most common use. Common use it does not mean that these four, it has only one correct answer. All of them can be a cause of conflict. But what is the most common use? It is the resources, because personalities is a special answer. What does it mean, a special answer? It means it depends on personality, it depends on the project, it depends on the people. So according to the PMI, you should answer about the general situation. What is the general situation? It is the resources. Personality, guys, is a good answer. It is a source of conflict, but it is not the most common use, because if you have the right team, if you develop the right team, then this will be the least common source of the conflict. Okay, a sort of a long question, but let's go through it together. A team member is not performing well on the project because they are inexperienced in system development work. There is no one else available. There is no one else available who's better qualified to do this work. What is the best solution for the project manager? What should you do? Should you consult with the functional manager to determine project completion incentive? So should I talk about with the functional manager to talk about what should we give as a reward, as an incentive for the team member? Should we obtain a new resource, more skilled, or should we arrange for team member to get training, or should we allocate some of the project schedule reserve?
Okay, this time I see the real leader. And people, please do not hesitate to vote. It's just a matter of sending your answers to your bosses after the session. Okay, 3 more seconds. I see the number of votes is not growing anymore. So ending the poll and sharing the result.
Okay, so you are saying to arrange for team members to get training. That's perfect. That's very good. And this is the correct answer. And the majority, as you said, people are not hesitating with this. Okay, so consult with functional manager to determine project completion incentive. What we are saying here, team member is not performing well. So we have a problem. The team member is not performing well because they are inexperienced. It is not because they are not, they don't want to work. They don't have the right experience. So no matter what incentive you will give them, they will not get better, because the reason for not doing well is the inexperience. And there is no one else. So I cannot have obtained a new resource, because the question say there is no one else available. So I cannot go for B because there is no one else available. What is the best solution? Allocate some of the project schedule reserve. I don't know if there is a project schedule reserve, and I cannot give an estimate here for this one.
Yeah, there is one question to this
Sure.
previous one. I have a question. Even if we have another team member who is better than this friend of ours, should we still change his position? Isn't it rather a bad attitude?
It is, sorry, it is about what? Bad attitude?
Yeah, isn't it a bad attitude? I mean, the approach. So
bad approach. Oh, okay, I understand. It is a bad approach to change a team member without trying to develop, without trying to make him better. So even if there is another resource that I can change, arranging for a training will be the best way forward. To develop your own team, it will be the best way forward, because you will gain two things. You will gain a loyal team member who's getting better with your team, And the second thing, the other team members will see that you are loyal to their team as well. Yes, you are right. It is better to develop the team. However, here it was very clear. He's saying that there is no one else. So answer B, we cannot go for it. But you are right. In real life, answer C is the best answer.
Okay, I believe we can go to the next question.
Okay, that's the last question, and we'll open the room for the Q&A. A project manager must publish a project schedule, activities, start date, time, and resources are identified. So the project manager, he has to publish the project schedule. He already identified the schedule, the resources that he needs. What should the project manager do next? Distribute the project schedule according to communication management plan, confirm availability of resources, refine the project management plan to reflect more accurate costing information, or publish a bar chart illustrating the timeline. You'll find that sort of questions a lot in the exam. Is saying you have completed that. What is the next step? So now you have completed the resource identification and you know the project schedule. What should you do next?
Okay, I see people are voting. The one of the answer got a lot of attention, but another one also gets like a 25% already. Okay, a few more seconds. And by the way, when we go to the Q&A section, some people are just actually leaving sometimes at this time, but I have some, let's say, funny thing to show you in the end. So,
Okay.
funny surprise, so please stay with us. Okay, showing the result. Can you comment on that?
Perfect, very good. So they confirm the availability of resources, that's the majority, and this is the correct answer. The question is talking really about what we have done today. We have identified the resources. So what was the next step, next process, which is the acquire the resources. What is acquire the resources? Is the confirm availability. So we are making sure that the resources are available. The other answers, they are not wrong, but they are not the next step. So after I identify the resources and I already have the schedule activities, I need to make sure that what I have identified are already there. It does not mean that they are starting, but I need to identify. Let's say I identified that I needed 2 architects. Can I confirm the duration of the work without making sure that these 2 identified architects are available and I can get them on time? Without this identification, I cannot really confirm on the project schedule. And that's why the confirm of availability of the resources must be done before committing to the publishing of the project schedule. So the correct answer is B, the confirm the availability of resources. Try to make it, yes, 15 minutes or a little bit more for the Q&A. Let's see if we have any questions. We can go back to these questions again or to any other process that we have discussed today.
Yes, we have a number of questions, so let's go through them. A question from Sergey. On the page 42, we've been talking about the theory X and Y. Shall we also mention theory Z as well?
Yes, theory Z is a very interesting theory, and it is a Japanese theory, work theory, and it says that the people who start working in an organization, they continue working for life. So theory Z is the Japanese management, which means that you start working in an organization and you continue working in this organization until you are retired. And it depends on the loyalty for the organization and the well-being of the person who's working in the in this organization. So that's theory Z. It is not widely known as theory X and Y, but it is one of the theories, yes.
Okay. Thank you for the answer. Let's switch to the next question. There was on the page 23 information about the pre-assignments, and the question for Binati is, pre-assignment sounds more like an input. I am not sure if I understand how it is a tool or technique. Would you maybe elaborate a bit more about this? So we have a pre-assignment as an input, not as a tool or technique.
Okay, so pre-assignment is you are right. Pre-assignment is someone that we have agreed to that he will be or she will be part of this project. But tools and techniques, as we agreed, tools and techniques is how we are transforming these inputs into these outputs. So a pre-assignment, yes, it is an input that are having this name, but also it is the tool. If I understand the question correct, is how I'm developing the inputs into the outputs. So it's how I'm processing this input. I'm not sure if this is the answering your question, but the pre-assignment is a name, yes, but pre-assignment is a form that I'm using. And usually the forms are the tools and techniques that I'm transforming the names into the outputs at the end.
Okay, thank you for answer. There is one question from Berna. She asking before, can there be a virtual war room? Is there a popular tool or only something like Zoom? And actually one part is related to that. We have also question from Esma, if you can repeat the part related to the Zoom, War Zoom, if possible, because maybe it's not well understood. So first part, maybe you can have some recommended tools, and the second, if you can elaborate a little bit more about the War Zoom room.
Okay. The war room is where I have all my resources, not progress reports, the updates. As you can see on these walls, you have project information all in one area. Like the team members, when they come in the morning, they can go to this room, they will know about the project update, what is the cost until now, what is this resources, what is our plan for the coming day, and what we have achieved in the last week. So this is the war room where you can have your project teams, where you have all the resources and information around you. The tools that, the best tool that I have used as a war room virtually is an application called Trello, Trello, and it is an easy one. It's a free one. Of course, there is a paid version, but this Trello you can share with your team. What are your plans? And you can assign tasks, you can get updates, you can have checklists, and it's quite interesting because it really shows like the war room in the virtual reality, and you can open it and you can share it, and it's quite nice as a tool.
Okay, thank you for answer. On the slide 29, develop team topic. Question is, what is if training will be useful for current and future projects, so it will be helpful for organization in the end, right?
Yes. So the organization should bear the cost, and this is what I said. The second most important thing is the ability of the project manager to negotiate. So let's say it will be helpful for this project and for future projects. Then organization should have the cost. If I'm the project manager, I will convince my organization that they should pay the full cost of the training, because this is the future. I'm just using it partially in there.
Okay, thank you. And yet another question to slide 36. Why do you think cost-benefit analysis is not part of acquire resources process?
Page 36. Okay. Why do I?
Why do you think cost-benefit analysis is not a part of acquire resources process? I'm not sure if it was 36. Maybe something close to this.
Okay, it's 37, but it's okay. Why it is not part of the, I don't understand the
part
question,
of
I'm sorry.
acquire resources process.
Part
Cost.
of acquire resources, okay. So, okay, the tools and techniques mentioned here by the PMI, and they are the first one to say, these are proposed tools and techniques. It does not mean that you have to use, if I have all these tools and techniques in this page, I don't need to use all of them, and I don't need to use only them. These are proposals from the PMI, and the PMI is saying you have to do the tailoring for your project. So if you want to use the cost-benefit analysis for acquiring personally, and if this is the question about practical and the real life, personally, I am using the cost-benefit analysis for acquiring resources. Definitely, I am using the cost-benefit analysis, not only for acquiring resources, but for most of my other processes as well. So it is important. I'm just saying this is the PMI point of view, but in real life, as PMI say, we have to do tailoring. So yes, you can use the cost-benefit analysis for acquiring.
Great, thank you for answer. Next question from Esma. There are millions of inputs, outputs, and tools and techniques. How to memorize? Shall we memorize it for exam? So first remark, not million, probably a little bit less, if I can count correctly. But maybe you have some answer and...
Okay, I'll tell you a secret. I never memorize the inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs. I never memorize them, and I never recommend to memorize them. But what is really required and is to understand the sequence of events. So the question, like the sample question that we have, you just finish this. What will happen then? So the question will not come say, what is the tool and technique for this process? But the question will come, you just finish this output. What will you do next? So the question is really relation between different resources. What you need to understand, or some of the questions, and it's quite few number of questions, comes about the tools and techniques. And they will say things like, a project manager is using a voting methodology, a voting tools and techniques in their work in order to get the best information. Let's say, which tool is he using? I only saw few questions from this perspective, but in this order, you need to remember the few of the tools and techniques. So he's asking about the nominal group technique, and if we are talking about brainstorming, if we are talking about affinity diagrams, in other words, and I can send Chris, or I can send you direct some of the let's say summary of the tools and techniques that really define each one. You'll find it at the end, 1 or 2 pages talking about the tools and techniques. So answering your question, you don't need to memorize what is the input in here for the control resources, those, and what are the outputs are those, but you need to remember what is the definition of some of the tools and techniques, and you need to know what is depending on what.
Okay, great. There is a question from Anil. Is any difference between the identify human resources and identify stakeholders?
In a way, resources are stakeholders. They are working with us in the project. I'm talking about human resources, of course. They are also stakeholders. But identifying stakeholders, if you recall, and it is part of the initial steps, it is part of the initiating process group, is to identify stakeholders. You will need to know stakeholders, and you need to know their interest and their power in the project. But to identify the resources in here, you need to know what do you need for the project. The main difference in identify resources in here, if we're talking about process 9.2, the estimate activity resources and identify them, is you need to identify them by category rather than by name. But identify stakeholders, you will need to identify most of them not by category, but by name and by role and responsibility. The other thing is for identify, as I was saying, identify stakeholders. You will know them by their interest and by their power, but this is not part of the identify resources. Identify resources, you need to know them by qualifications and by quantity, rather than by their interest and power.
Okay, great. So the next question, actually, to virtual teams. You've been talking about a lot of, let's say, advantages of having virtual teams, but would be great also to share the cons of virtual teams, such as security and privacy limitation, but also people related. This can be a challenge for a manager. So
Yes.
my experience is that it cost me a lot more communication sometimes when I've been talking with the people who are not collocated, because otherwise you may just turn your chair and talk to somebody, and otherwise you need to schedule a meeting whatsoever. Can you comment on that?
Sure. The advantage of virtual teams, when we talked about the collocation and they are the opposite of the virtual teams, we said that each one has their own advantage and disadvantage. So some of the disadvantage of having a virtual team, as you said, is managing or talking to a chair, or some of the managers find it more difficult to manage the team remotely or not seeing them. And from the other perspective as well, from the people themselves who are working at home, some people they feel more lonely. Some people, they feel more disengaged, not as a manager, but as people who are working. And some people who are staying at home and they just want to go out to have different perspective. So if your question is about disadvantage, yes, as you said, there is a security disadvantage, there is a control disadvantage, there is people loneliness or some symptoms that happen for virtual people who are working virtually disadvantage. You can have the disadvantage as well of the communication method, because not always Zoom or Teams are available to have that sort of communication. So all these are disadvantage. If your question is about which one do I prefer, there is no preference. Not PMI, not myself, we have a preference, but it is a recommendation depending on the project and depending on the resources and depending on the situation that you have. I remember 12 years ago, I was doing a project in Comoros Island. It's like a heaven on earth. However, the communication there, there is no internet. So it was quite impossible to have virtual team meeting or discussion or whatever. It all depends on the situation. Personally, I believe that the virtual team is the future, whether we like it or not, but we just need to resolve the issues that we are facing with the security and the control.
Okay, great. Yet another two questions. One is pretty let's say long, but let me shorten it. There are some documents in the PMBOK, but maybe you have some recommendation for the sample documents or templates for project management, especially related to the resource management, something that you, sources that you, of that.
Yes, I have developed my own, and there is two websites, and I will send to Chris, or you can communicate with me and I will send to you. They are available online. If I recall correctly, projectmanagementdocuments.com, but I will send to Chris and he can communicate with them. And I can send you also some of the forms that I have developed. No worries.
Okay, great. So two options: you can either contact Ahmed directly, or probably if I will get something like shareable things, not in the current invitation to the next session, but to the next one, maybe I can attach it on the top, or you can just contact us. Basically, it will be somewhere. There is again like a longer question, so please focus this last one regarding the question for training the unskilled people on project. What if the person available is not making any progress with training? What is happening with the project then? My assumption is that I'm losing the time and money with the no progress. Shouldn't we recruit and hire somebody with the right skills rather than waiting on training, which won't assure the project completion? I'm not against training. I find them rather useful, but the progress of the current project having the only one person who is not skilled enough can be very tricky.
Okay, I understand your question, but let's answer it in two parts. The first part is the exam question or the sample question that we are having here. The correct answer from the four is for arrange for team member to get training. This is the correct answer, and it is not, there is no question about it. The second part of the question is in real life scenario. Is it better to hire the right person in the first place? Definitely it is the best option. Definitely this is the way forward. This definitely, there was a very wise say, I read it so many years ago. They said, some people say, I have to hire now. I don't have time. I need to hire people now. And the answer for this was, you will spend time, whether spend time selecting the right person, or you will spend the time later on developing the person that you selected to become right. So yes, your question is correct. I need to select from the first place the right person. I will lose time, and I will lose money, and I will lose patience, and I will lose project progress if I don't select the right person. But what can I say? This happens many times, that we hire someone and this person may not be as good as what we thought, or maybe he's good, but maybe he's not suitable for this position. So what is the best way forward is to make the training if we don't have the right selection from beginning. And this is why selecting right is quite an important task.
Great. So I believe we are more or less about all the questions. We are a little bit over time. So thank you once again for a very great presentation, Ahmed. And
Thank you.
yes, the surprise, actually, fun surprise I have for you. It's something that I actually seen on some presentation of one of my colleagues from PMI Poland, and he's showing you kind of organization, what you can actually see. Usually in the
Yes.
organization, it's like hierarchy of structure, but it can be a little bit more complicated. And here
It is correct.
and here is how we can actually find it. There. So basically, this is just for fun. And yes, so
it is correct. And a project manager who can really see this in the team and in the organization is a very successful project manager, because they will understand the real things behind the smiley faces or the sad faces that we are seeing every day.
Yeah, and so basically that's all about the topic today. So again, thank you very much. It was very nice. Let me remind you just that you were supposed to already get in your mailboxes the invitation for the next session, which is going to be Project Risk Management with David Garcia Melendez. This time we are going to Colombia, so yet another part of the world, yet another maybe a little bit different culture. However, we think it is going to be fun. So 23rd of actually this is not April, this is June, so my mistake on the slide. But basically next Tuesday, let's meet together and we can discuss this. And please remember, as usual, to fill out the form. This is very useful, and we are sending also results to the lecturers, so they can see how much you like the presentation. So again, for today, thank you very much. Have a nice day, have a nice evening, have a nice morning, depends which time zone you are, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.